Hello there and welcome back to the Liverpool Football Club experiment where we completely destroy them. So when we last left them off, they'd finished 15th in the Championship. It was their second season in the Championship. And yeah, they seem to have managed to balance themselves out. But here's what I'm going to do now. Whereas in the last video I did a year at a time and I went through it, I'm going to go 5 years into the future and then I'm going to go through each year to see what they happened. So I'll see you in a second in the year 2024. Alright, and here we are in the year 2024. And as you can see, they had quite a middling time while we were away. But this year, as the saving grace of this, they have been relegated this year, finishing 23rd. So I suppose the first thing to do is have a look at their competitions this season. So as you can see, not there, right down at the bottom. 23rd, and you got 9 wins this season. You know, finished below Wycombe Wanderers, the Milton Keynes Dons, Huddersfield Town, who obviously did get promoted in real life, but in game they've always been kind of terrible. Below Millwall, Bristol City, Ipswich Town, and they only went above Walsall on the final day because they won. So, yeah, if they hadn't won on the final day, they would not be there. They would be bottom. They got knocked out in the 4th round by Birmingham City in the FA Cup, and in the 2nd round by Burton Albion. So I think the first thing we should do is go to the schedule. So this is the season we left off. They've managed to finish 15th. The season after that, as you can see, they sort of improved, especially at the beginning of the season. Still going out quite early in the League Cup, but I suppose as a Championship team, they just don't care. Yeah, they did have a point here where they just couldn't win. I managed to get one. It was against Sheffield Wednesday. Veton Berisha getting both the goals. But yeah, that sort of blip in the middle here sort of didn't help them. They ended up finishing mid-table that season. And this one here, they had a testimonial for David Martin against the Milton Keynes Dons, where they won 2-0 at Stadium MK. And then, yeah, they had sort of a decent start to the season, and then sort of kept together. The problem was they weren't really consistent, so they did have times where they would win a couple of games in a row and then they wouldn't win, and that would sort of drop them back down. So yeah, I believe that season they finished, I think they finished just outside the playoffs, didn't they? So that's the season we left. So yeah, they finished 12th. They actually finished 4th, so they got in the playoffs that year. Okay, we're going to have a look at that season quickly. It was that season, wasn't it? Yeah, so they ended up losing to Brentford 4-3 on aggregate in the semi-finals of the playoffs. So that was the best chance they had to get back into the Premier League, and they did not take it, unfortunately. So yeah, as you see here, yeah, they lost. They drew 2-2, and then they actually lost 2-1 at the Dalglish Stadium, with Mamadou Sakho getting sent off as well. So not great at all that, you know, they managed to get a 2-2 draw at Brentford, only to then lose at home in Merseyside. The next season started off quite well, not letting the Championship playoffs defeat lose them, but then second half of the season just really inconsistent, getting a win, getting a loss, getting a draw, getting a win, getting a loss, getting a draw, just couldn't string together 2 or 3 results in a row to build up to momentum. And they finished mid-table then. And then this is another season where they finished mid-table. They sort of became a mid-table team. Once again, strong start, but then very poor middle where they couldn't pick up 3 points, and then a poor end as well. You know, if it wasn't for this little stretch here, they managed to pick up, you know, 7 wins in about 12 games. You know, it would have been very disappointing because it probably would. That's relegation form. That is picking up 7 points in like 10 games is relegation form. And then this season, just a really terrible first half of the season. They got what, 2, 3, 4 wins in the first half of the season. Second half of the season didn't do much better, picking up only 6 wins, One of them being on the final day when they're already relegated, probably. Just not great at all, really. If we go through their managers, you can see that they've had Jamie Carragher twice. This time, the first time he actually left to go manage Leeds United. But the second time he came in, he was sacked simply because of that poor run at the start of the season where they only picked up, you know, the 3 wins in the first half of the season. So he was sacked. And they replaced with this guy, Mark Mosley, who in real life is the reserves assistant manager at Bournemouth. You know, he's not great. Look at those stats, not great. He's on 48.5k. It's really an odd decision. When you look at Jamie Carragher's stats, you feel like he would be able to turn it around given enough time. You know, considering they sacked Harry Redknapp, you know, despite the fact that he'd won 44% of his games, and yet Mark Mosley, who's won 24, still there. Jamie Carragher won 22. They had Nigel Adkins, who won 41. He actually left the manager role. Jamie Carragher had won 47 in his first term. Malcolm Mackay only won 32 altogether, 32%. 49 games won, 47 games drawn, 57 lost. Yeah, just not really that great. If you go to the general, so the finances are now insecure. But obviously, Steven Gerrard is still the owner, so you know he loves the club. They've managed to get 217 season ticket holders, but it's £770 a season ticket. It's very expensive for the Championship, even in the year 2024, I'm sure. They still have a massive loan debt of 341 million, and they're only worth 6. If we go into the details, so they now get about 566 people a match. But they can get up to 11,407. In terms of finances, they currently have 76,000, which, you know, is fine. Is it 76 or 761? 761,000, sorry. No sugar daddy. The facilities are obviously, they built the Dalglish Stadium. It can be expanded up to 22,814. It is all-seater. But their training facilities are still not amazing, so not really great. So yeah, they've got poor youth facilities and adequate training facilities, so it's not really good. It's going to be hard to your players to improve when you've got such poor facilities. Go to the transfers. So this is the year we left off. So they'd spent 17.25. Is that the year we left off? Remember. Let 675 go. So yeah, they're sort of spending money that they don't really have, it seems. Because for a standard Championship team, because at this point they'd been there 3 years, you know, 17.25 in a season is a lot of money, especially when you're spending 7 million on one player. You know. It's not great, and only bringing in 675. Normally, you have to balance the books in the Championship. They didn't do that. So they brought in Tommy Elphick, Richie Delat, Scott Malone was on loan, Veton Berisha, Will Buckley, Aidan O'Neill, Ryan Tunnicliffe, and Mark Roberts, and Apostos Velios. He's still there. He's a striker. The next season, they spent 4.8 and brought in 8.75. So I suppose they're sort of having to balance the books now because, you know, the finances weren't doing great. This is the season they got into the playoffs. So they brought in Jermaine Anderson, Nathan Smith, Joe Riley, and Craig McGilvery permanently. Corey Owens and Ashley Richards on frees, and everybody else was on loan. Not really spending that much. 1.7 on Jermaine Anderson, who is now at Rotherham. And in terms of fees brought in, they actually sold Veton Berisha to Watford for 3.7, Ryan Tunnicliffe to Leeds for 2.2, Tom Lawrence for 2.2. Considering they spent quite a lot of money on Tom Lawrence, that's a massive loss for them. 1.2 on Ben Marshall, and Ezekiel Fryers went for 240k. Season after that, wow, really not spending any money and having to bring quite a few players, let a few players leave. They only brought in for a fee Ivan Lukic from Swansea, who's now at Wickham. They also brought in Alan Judge, who is still there. Yeah, he's currently at Brentford in real life. And everybody else is on loan. I think they're probably all regens at this point, all the loan players. And leaving was Jermaine Anderson for 1.3, Joe Riley for 8.25, and Craig McGilvery went to Queen's Park Rangers for up to 30k. And the season after, once again, only spending 1.4, but selling 2.5. So they brought in Tariq Fosu, Josh Clark, Christopher Clara, Fergal Hellbrown, and Ben Killip. And Connor Furlong came in on a free with Dan Etheridge, who is a decent little regen. Well, 52k. Actually, he's gone to Norwich now. He's actually made an appearance. Never made an appearance for Liverpool though. He's decent. He's sort of average, I guess. Never really expected him to be a first team when he's come all the way up from Tamworth. And then leaving, George Kevins and Kudu went to Middlesbrough for 1.5. Danny Ward went to Reading for up to 150, and Nathan Smith went to MK Dons for up to 375. And Ivan Lukic left this season after he came to go to Charlton. So sold 2 players to Nantwich, and quite a few were released as well. And Tommy Elphick retired. And then this season, really not doing anything. They brought in Ilyas Musa Sebatoy from Colchester United. So he's actually currently a youth keeper for Man United. In one of my single player saves on here, by that I mean an offline save, it's all single player, isn't it? He was a legend at Stromgodset in Norway. And they sold Ashley Richards and Dan Etheridge, and Chris Draper was released. So other than the first season, they've really had to cut back on spending, and I think that's kind of hindered them in the long run. And obviously with insecure finances, it's not going to be sort of a smooth ride for them. If you have a look at the tactics, so they're still playing the 4-1-2-2-1 system. If we look at the appearances, so yeah, Velios and Brannigan made the most appearances, followed by Clark, Roberts, Kiravella, Clara, and Markovic. Fosu, Sacco, and Sebatoy make up the rest, with Furlong and Judge also playing quite a significant role this season. So one thing I did notice when I was just doing a brief overview before I started the video was Mamadou Sakho is still free. Anybody can buy him, and yet he's not leaving. So he must have quite a high loyalty rating. And it's the same with Markovic. He's available on a free, and yet nobody is bringing him in. You know, every time I come here, they're always wanted, and by decent teams as well. And yet they never seem to go. But Brannigan is worth something, so he'll probably get sold in the summer. But because they got relegated, I will continue this experiment even more. If they hadn't have got relegated, I would have ended it here. But because they did, I will see you on Friday for what will probably be the final part if they get promoted again. So I'll see you on Friday. Bye bye.